Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. We have some breaking news. Another fight was added to UFC London. We are going to get a lightweight fight between Paddy Pimblett and Jordan Leavitt, which may come as a shock to some of you because of some of the rumors that have been floating around for about a month now, but it did not shock me. We'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to react to the news, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you my early prediction for this fight. And also, I really believe, depending on how you want to look at it, I think the UFC missed an opportunity here with Paddy Pimblett. So first off, you look at the news and you see Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Leavitt. And a lot of people are like, well, what's going on here? Well, it was leaked about a month ago on Dana White's War Room. He did a podcast. It was leaked that they were looking to target Paddy Pimblett versus Ottman Azaitar. And when I initially saw that leaked, I said, I have a hard time believing that the UFC is going to book Paddy Pimblett versus Ottman Azaitar in Pimblett's third ever UFC fight, because Ottman is not an easy fight by any means, and I favored Ottman Azaitar to beat Paddy Pimblett. And I just had a hard time believing the UFC wasn't going to take Pimblett the Sean O'Malley route, where he's still young, he's talented, but let's kind of move him along slowly and slow incremental steps up in competition instead of throwing him right to the wolves, letting him fight Ottman Azaitar, who's not ranked, but still a very tough opponent. And now we get him versus Jordan Leavitt, which is more of a slight step up in competition. And now that you have this fight on the London card, you have an absolutely crazy stacked card for UFC London July 23rd. The main event, Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall, Jack Hermanson versus Darren Till, Nikita Krylov versus Alexander Gustafsson, Paul Craig, Volkan Ozdemir. You have Muhammad Mokaev versus Charles Johnson on this fight card. You have Molly McCann versus Hannah Goldie. You have Makwan Amirkhani on the card as well. It is a stacked UFC Fight Night card in UFC London. I am super hyped for this card. And now you have Paddy Pimblett getting his first real step up in competition. And I know this isn't a massive step up in competition, but there's other fighters on the roster who are 5, 6, 7 fights into their UFC career, and they're just now getting a slight step up in competition. Paddy Pimblett is 3 fights in. I think Jordan Leavitt is a slight step up over names like Luigi Vendramini or Rodrigo Vargas. I think Jordan Leavitt is a slight step up in competition. It's not much, but it's only his 3rd fight within the UFC. And I've talked about it in the past. I even have a video on the channel titled, Is Paddy Pimblett Overrated? And the answer to that question for me personally was no, because a lot of people, I've not heard really anyone saying, oh, Paddy Pimblett's going to be a future title contender, Paddy Pimblett's going to be a double champion, Paddy Pimblett's going to be a champion just in general. I haven't seen anybody saying that. Most people, my take from the entire MMA community is basically Paddy Pimblett is a fun guy to watch. He has an interesting personality, but unless he builds his skills significantly, he's not really going to be able to become the elite of the elite anytime soon. And we don't want to see him against any of the top 15 anytime soon, because you look at his skill set, and even though he's only fought guys like Luigi Vendramini, who I don't even think is in the UFC anymore, or Rodrigo Vargas, in both those fights he got clipped. And, I know he ended up winning those fights, but still, to get clipped so badly so early on in your UFC career, what is going to happen when you fight the elite of the elite within the lightweight division? So we'll see what happens. Against Jordan Leavitt, it's going to be grappler versus grappler in this particular fight, because Paddy Pimblett, even though, he's striked in the majority of the Luigi Vendramini fight, and in the Rodrigo Vargas fight, he showed some of his grappling. Some people just don't realize that Paddy Pimblett wants to take you down, control you on the ground, and look for submissions, look for ground and pounds. The majority of Paddy Pimblett's wins have come via submission. It's the same for Jordan Leavitt. The majority of his wins have come via submission. Jordan Leavitt's best win was against Matt Weidman back in December of 2020. He shot in on a double leg takedown. He picked him up in the air, and then he slammed him down, but he framed off with his forearm and brutally KO'd Matt Weidman as he slammed him to the ground. Then he did a split afterwards. His most recent fight, his most recent win against Trey Ogden back in April of this year, so not that long ago, just last month, he was able to win that fight via decision, split decision, and then afterwards he was twerking. Can you imagine a scene where Jordan Leavitt goes out there and beats Paddy Pimblett and then is twerking in the London arena afterwards? That would be absolutely hilarious. But as far as an early prediction for this fight, I really believe that, you know, you look at Jordan Leavitt's striking, it's not that great. He has some good kicks, and I feel like it's the same thing with Paddy Pimblett. He has some okay striking, it's not that great. He has some decent kicks as well, but both guys want to take you to the ground, want to control you on the ground, want to look for ground and pound, and eventually want to look for submissions. And I just think I lean Paddy Pimblett. I think Paddy Pimblett wins via submission. I don't see him submitting Jordan Leavitt. Jordan Leavitt was on the ground for 3 rounds with Claudio Blaydes and was not submitted by him, who just recently submitted Clay Guida. So I don't think Paddy Pimblett has that elite level world-class jiu-jitsu submission skills to be able to submit Jordan Leavitt. But I just think Paddy Pimblett is much bigger than Jordan Leavitt. I think he's going to have a massive size advantage, and I really don't think that Jordan Leavitt's going to be able to out-grapple him. I think this fight will either consist of somebody getting clipped on the feet and put down, or it's going to be Paddy Pimblett winning the grappling exchanges just based on sheer size advantage alone, because I believe he is much bigger. There's been all that talk about him blowing up in weight, and people were questioning whether or not he'd even be able to make the London card in July because he potentially, you know, weighs so much. How is he going to get in shape and get down to 155 for July 23rd? Because it's really not that far away. It's a little less than 2 months away until this fight card, and I think people who are going to the UFC London card are going to be happy to see Paddy Pimblett on the card. But I also do believe that the UFC kind of missed an opportunity here, because, and I know why they did it, but at the same time, I would have loved to seen it. You had the beef back and forth between Paddy Pimblett and Ilia Topuria. You know, they had that altercation at UFC London, the most recent card, and I feel like the UFC should have capitalized on it and made the fight. There was a lot of promotion to be made there. It was an interesting matchup because even though a lot of people considered Ilia Topuria probably the more skilled fighter, he would have a massive size disadvantage against Paddy Pimblett, and I would have been really intrigued to see that matchup. And even if Paddy Pimblett lost, I still think the UFC could rebuild him, and even if Topuria lost, he could say, you know what, I'm up at 55, I need to go back to 45 where I belong, where I don't have this massive disadvantage against the guy. I really wish the UFC would have made that fight, but at the same time, I'm happy with Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Leavitt. And I know there's going to be some people, and I'm not some Paddy Pimblett caught follower. I'm not a Paddy Pimblett hater by any means. I know there's going to be some people complaining about this matchmaking and say, oh, Paddy Pimblett's only fighting Jordan Leavitt. This is more of a natural progression. Some fighters go 6-7 fights into their UFC career without even taking this slight step up in competition. This is Paddy Pimblett's 3rd fight. He's still super young. I think this is a decent step up to kind of see where Paddy Pimblett's grappling skills are, because Jordan Leavitt, while he's not a Khabib Nurmagomedov, he's not an Islam Makhachev, Jordan Leavitt has some decent grappling skills, has some offensive grappling, has some good defensive grappling as well, has that crazy slam over Matt Wiman. I think he has some decent kicks. I think they're pretty much even on the feet. So I think this fight will really give us a good grasp on where Paddy Pimblett's skill set is, and it's different from his first 2 fights, where we knew in his first 2 fights the guys he was fighting were going to want to primarily strike with him and look to knock him out on the feet, and we knew Paddy Pimblett was most likely going to look to grapple. In this fight, I believe both guys are going to be looking to grapple, and I'm curious who comes out on top. But again, my early prediction is Paddy Pimblett by decision. I just think he's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter in this fight. I think he's going to out-scramble and just out-grapple Jordan Leavitt just purely on size alone. And he might have a little bit of a skill advantage, but we will see when we get to the fight card. So let me know what you guys think of this fight in the comments section. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.